Hi, I'm BJ, and this is the Arcane Alienist Podcast. Hey everybody, how you doing out there? I am back with a little more Black Sword Hack. Here we've got my now a few weeks old pre-recorded segment where I do make a character. I think it's very interesting what comes out of this because it's a randomly rolled character, and I think we tend to think of sword and sorcery heroes as being very physically competent, athletic, strong, fast, nimble. This character is not. He's kind of all charisma and brains. And so, as we get further into the role play, it'll be interesting to see how I put him in situations that are more typical, maybe of sword and sorcery adventures, and how he, sword and sorcery characters also live by their wits. It's not like they're just uh, muscle. Uh, but they tend to not avoid combat a lot. I mean, it seems to be inevitable. So how do we tell an interesting sword and sorcery tale with a character? Well, you'll see when I make the character and we get into it. I gotta admit though, before I turn over to the segment, trying to do these solo plays, it's just something I wasn't grokking about it. I think having done the stuff for Mirkborg, the solitary defilement, which is very much a procedural way of sort of generating a dungeon crawl or a wilderness journey or a city crawl as you go, so that it's unfolding in front of you, so that you can't try to check your kind of tendency to want to save your character or have your have the story dictate what happens as opposed to the just sort of the randomness of a player character encountering these things. That kind of structure is not here for the Black Sword hack. It gives you it's really more of a as much a storytelling exercise and creative storytelling as it is what we might think of as a tabletop adventure game. I mean, you're doing the sorts of things, but it is more of I think creates more of a character driven story, and not necessarily you pace yourself and you just sort of use these oracles when you're not sure what to do. He's posing a question. Well, do I know this? Yes or no. Well, would I see this? Yes or no. If there's not an ability check, it's more of a fact about the world outside the character. This oracle, you just kind of have to phrase your questions kind of yes and no to get the answers. I want to give a shout out to a YouTuber. His name is Anderson. This is the Kill 10 Rats RPG channel, and I will put a link to his video series where he does this. And I watched it, and it sort of that really helped me see, okay, this is what we were doing here. Um, and it's also just a really entertaining. He's an excellent storyteller, and I mean, it's the kind of guy. It's like, man, I would probably really enjoy playing in a game with him if I ever could. Not that I know him, or not that he'll ever hear this, but is so but anyway, I'll put a link to that just so you guys can give him some views and some clicks, and see a little more about where I'm headed. Hopefully I'm not going to just emulate everything he does. I'll find my own way, but it kind of helped me see the big picture of how the solo play stuff works. Previews what's coming up in this episode. I will put my character generation um, segment in here, and then I've done some world building as well, which we'll probably do in a follow-up episode. Again, I don't want stuff to get too lengthy, so we'll see what happens. Let me uh, plug in the character thing, and and what I'll do before I publish this episode, I'll record my segment kind of talking about my world building, and if it's just a few minutes long, which is very unlikely, I may tack it onto the end of this one, but more than likely it's gonna uh, be part of another episode. So, that being said, here we go with the character generation and how I come up with this character named Dolan, Dolan of the Isles. Okay, so starting off with Black Sword Hack, for the lone adventurer. The first thing it suggests is to find a title. Uh, Give the title for your adventures. Look at your RPG or books, mix and match words until something sounds right. Meaning be damned. Or they give an example. You can roll a d8 and come up with stuff. So things like on the example, the dark fate of the wind howlers. This axe is mine, an executioner's tale. 5 swords against the blood god. The twisted destiny of the scarlet princess. So they want you to find a title and then create a character. And I guess the title is supposed to the extent you have choices in how you build your character, maybe try to lay the foundation to reflect that, and then shape as you create the adventures of this character to kind of be heading towards that uh, either the end point encapsulated by the title or something along those lines. I uh, I think I'm going to deviate a little bit. I'm going to make the character first and then come back and kind of think of a title. So I want to try to do this as close to as suggested, just to see kind of what the author's intent are, and play the game as it's meant to be played. Of course, in other parts of the book, particularly they give a sample world you could use, and it says it knows the woman who created this world kind of started with their rules, and then just kind of broke them all left and right to do whatever she wanted. So the, the game designers themselves are telling you to deviate from the rules. Wherever you see fit. The things they kind of suggest are just suggestions. And I know all RPGs say that, but I think they really, really mean it here. Uh, so anyway, let's just go back and make a character, and I'm going to try to make this character randomly, as random as possible. So I got to flip back to the first part of the book. I mean, there are things on here that aren't random that I think I'm going to roll for anyway. So uh, I should probably write this stuff down uh, if I'm going to be doing this, huh? All right. So you've got 2d6, and you're supposed to roll in order for your character abilities. And I don't know what I'm doing. I have a character sheet sitting on the table right next to my desk. So why don't I grab that instead of using scratch paper? Okay, here we go. So roll 2d6 for your abilities in order, and there's this table in here. So you do convert it over. So all your abilities start off uh, between an 8 and a 13, and you're rolling 2d6. So you get this kind of bell curve centered around a 7, uh, and then that convert the 7 to a 10 because this is a d20 system. Um, so here we go. His strength or her strength. We don't know if it's a male or female. I roll a 3, which gives me an 8 strength. Not off to an auspicious start for strength. Dexterity. I got a 2, which is also an 8. Um, Constitution 6, which converts to a 10. At least has an average Constitution. Intelligence. I roll an 8, which gives me an 11 intelligence. Wisdom. I roll a 6, which gives me a 10 wisdom. And charisma. Maybe he'll show up with a nope 5. Gives me a 9 charisma. This person is not very good at anything. See if it has a note for hopeless characters. It does not, but I'm going to stick with it because I know you get to change. You get to raise some attributes depending on the backgrounds your character develops. So then the question is the origin barbarian, civilized, or decadent? What is their origin? So I'm going to roll a D. Do I have a D3? I do have a D3 right in front of me because I've got some of my DCC funky dice. So uh, one barbarian, 2 civilized, 3 decadent, and I get a 1. So this is a barbarian. The origin is barbarian. And you can roll a 20, D20 on the table. to talk about where your character was born. So let's see where the character is born. I get a 2. On an island just before the invaders came. So he's born on an island just before the invaders came. Born on an island just before the invaders came. Okay, wrote that down. Now you choose backgrounds. Pick 3 backgrounds, 2 tied to your origin and another one from any list. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 barbarian potential origins. So I'll grab my D10. And the first, I'm sorry, yeah, background. There are that many backgrounds. First thing I roll is a 3, which is an herbalist, which will increase my intelligence by 1. So my intelligence goes up to 12. And let's roll again and see what I get. 8. Storyteller. Wow. Which will increase my charisma from a 9 to a 10. All right. So as a herbalist, you can create D6 doses of a healing balm. Um, Restores D6 plus level HP. Hallucinate drugs or poison. D6 damage per dose. You need a long rest close to nature to replenish your stock. Add 1 to intelligence. And then as a storyteller, you always know D4 interesting things about objects, places, or people. 1 roll per session. When you tell a story, your audience doesn't notice what happens nearby. So, the ability to distract. Very interesting. Okay. All right. So, I get to pick 1 other background. It could be another barbarian background, or it could be a civilized or decadent background. I think they're just going to keep the character a little more interesting and a little more diverse in ability. I'm going to not pick another barbarian one. I would roll a D3 if I was going to, just to decide again which list to draw from. But let's go with here we go. I'll just grab this D6. If I roll high, it's civilized. If I roll low, it's decadent. And I roll a 5 that is civilized. So there are 9 civilized backgrounds. And do I have a D9? Did the funky dice create the D9? It is not, but you can roll a D3 twice, right? You roll a D3 and then you multiply the result by the next roll and you get a number between 1 and 9. I roll a 3 and another 1, so I choose the third one. That'll be the third one on the list. Diplomat, you know 2 additional languages and can make yourself understood by anyone willing to do so. If all you do is talk, you can act first at the beginning of any combat turn. That's another increase to charisma. So now my charisma is 11. So this person is a barbarian origin. Uh, they are an herbalist, a storyteller, and something of a diplomat. So what I'm imagining is a bard in the classic sense of the Celtic bard, who had a position as the historian, storyteller, advisor. Not a priest the way the druid would have been, but certainly had a strong, a specific role in their society. Um, Not the ne'er do well, you know, uh, promiscuous, hedonistic rock star of a character that Bard has become in modern D&D, but they actually more the more historical idea of a bard among the Celtic people. So let's get this guy a name. There is some names in the back of the book if I can find it. Um, we've got Manx names, Samoan names, Norwegian names, Oromo names, Basque names, Mongol names, and then some names that just are completely fantasy made up. I think a Manx name would go very well. That is a Celtic language from an island, the Isle of Man. So from a Celtic people that dwelt on an island. Um, so let's see here. How many names do we have? There are 24 names. And I happen to have a D24. So let's just see what we get. And I roll a 6. And that is Dolan, Dolen. All right, so his hit points, then Dolan will be equal to his con score, which is 10. Doom starts at the usage D6, the Doom die. Then it does D6 with the weapons, D6 damage with a weapon, D4 with unarmed damage. Starting equipment, they usually have a set of clothes, a few coins to spend based on their origin, and 2 weapons. So as a barbarian, he has 25 coins. 25 coins. And it says to roll roll 2d10s on the tables on 29. Roll once on the table tied to your origin, once on a table of your choice. A result of 0 means no weapon because there are only 9 things on the table. Of course, they're assuming you don't have a way to roll a d9. I wonder why d9s aren't part of the. I wonder if they're just difficult, geometrically speaking, to create a 9-sided thing. The way you can kind of create the 7, the 5, and the 3, but not the 9. So yeah, you get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Skips 9, 10. I guess you don't have a D11 either. And then after 10, it goes 10, 12, 14, 16. Then they skip the 18, and you got a 20 and a 24 and a 30. So anyway, I'm on a tangent. All right, so for this barbarian weapon, I got a 1 multiplied by 2 for 2. That is a chakram. That is like Xena's, the weapon that Xena throws, right? Uh, and then let's do a civilized weapon, since he has that civilized match that other civilized background. So I've got a 3 times 3 for a 9, which is a pilgrim's staff. So a chakram and a staff, which it's kind of interesting because at least in the beginning of Xena, she had the chakram, and her sidekick Gabrielle had a staff. Um, okay, but a staff is a 2-handed weapon, which means you get advantage on damage rolls, not on attack rolls, but on damage. So you roll 2d6 and take the better result. You're carrying a staff. And that is true of any 2-handed weapon on the list here. I do have 25 coins, and it might be nice to see if he starts off with some other stuff. Now, the way this works is you have to roll for how much something costs when you go to buy it, because prices may vary. Small, simple items are a D6. Uh, Very expensive items like medium armor, metal weapons, things like that are D6 times 100. Medium armor would be something like a breastplate, a chainmail shirt, brigandine, something like that. Hide, leather, padded kinds of armor is considered light armor. That's in the D6 times 10 coins. So I'm going to see if he can score some armor. I don't think you're obliged to buy anything if you roll to see how much you're going to have to pay for it. So he's got 25 coins. So if I roll fairly low, he might be able to outfit himself with some armor. What armor does, it provides damage reduction. Light armor 1 damage reduction, medium armor 2, heavy armor 3. And it notes here heavy armor is full plate. And it's very unlikely that characters ever acquire this type of armor unless they find it themselves on a battlefield, and then you probably have to take it to an armor smith to get it tailored to fit you, since it wasn't made for you. So it's highly unlikely for anybody to get heavy armor, although still possible. It doesn't even begin to suggest what the cost would be. Um, but let's see what I can roll to see if I can get some armor. And I roll a 550. No, I am not getting armor to start off with. Uh, um, so let's look at some of these smaller items that I might be able to get. A United Tavern, a hearty meal, a backpack, uh, clothes, which, already have clothes. So I should make a note of that. Mirror, an oil flask, grappling hook, parchment, rations, rope, scrolls, water skin, whistle, wood stakes. I would assume that well, you know what? Let's see kind of where the adventure starts and determine if he would have these things in hand, or if he would need to acquire them before setting off to the next destination after we just figure out where he's starting out and what happens initially. All right, so we've got our weapons, we've got our clothing, we've got our abilities, and that's kind of it. From there, they want you to start world building. It doesn't have to be everything. You don't, you can't have a map. You can just have a general idea of here, kind of the major nations or factions and where they are relative to one another. But we'll do that at the next recording. I'm going to go ahead and stop this one now. So here we have Dolan. Well, maybe real quickly, let's go back and look at what we want to name this, the title of this saga. Dolan. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. Again, I'm picturing this guy who was probably supposed to remain at home on the island with his people as a poet, historian, soothsayer, kind of a person in that role among his people. But that is never how sword and sorcery heroes' fate turns out, is it? So, um, he was born on the island just as the invaders came. So we'll probably need to flesh out a little more about the island and who the invaders were. So maybe that's what we'll do in the second part of this. And then maybe I'll be able to circle back and I'll have some sort of inspiration uh, to find a title for Dolan's Adventurers. All right. That will be the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. Hope you come back for more in the coming weeks. Wherever you are out there, take care of yourself and try to make someone happy today. Thanks for listening to the Arcane Alienist podcast. The music you're hearing is Come and Get It by Scott Holmes Music. The cover art is by Dave Bone. Be sure to check out his stuff at ironseer.com. You can leave me a message. I have my SpeakPipe account linked to the show description. You can also send me an email at arcane.alienist@gmail.com. Just embed a voice memo, or I'll just read the text to your email during a future episode. Once again, thanks so much for listening.